What is going on, everybody? I hope you're having a wonderful Thursday and welcome back to Cinema Buzz on KCYP 97.7 The City, where we talk about movies and the latest news hitting the headlines. First up, we got Steven Spielberg, one of the Hollywood giants, and we have reports here from World of Real online saying that Steven Spielberg just wrapped up filming for his newest picture starring Wyatt Russell and Emily Blunt. Spielberg once again has teamed up with screenwriter David Koepp, who previously worked on Jurassic Park, War of the Worlds. He's also worked on, done a couple of projects on Indiana Jones. He's just a really great screenwriter. So with this pairing, it's just really exciting to see them work again together. So a lot of secrets are being kept from the media, from the public, as always when it comes to a Spielberg project, and a lot of speculations are coming up, especially the theory that his Spielberg's latest movie is going to be about UFOs, which is really interesting. So Kep is currently working on, or he just finished working on Jurassic World Rebirth with Gareth Edwards, and while he was promoting the film, he spoke to Deadline about possible titles for Spielberg's latest movie. We have examples such as The Dish and Disclosure. So these titles really don't give much into what the movie might be about. The Dish, it sounds like it would be take place in the kitchen. We had the Menu movie, and then we have the TV series The Bear. A lot of like really good media coming from like restaurants and kitchens and such. So it gives like a restaurant kind of vibe, and then Disclosure. To me, it sounds like sort of like a thriller, maybe a psychological type of approach to this, but doesn't really give much. And Keb is also addressing plot themes and speculations that fans have been throwing around online, especially about the UFO theory. And I quote from David Kep himself: "What Spielberg brilliantly combines is grand spectacle and real emotion with truth. It's a very emotional experience in this movie." So again, that doesn't really give us much on Spielberg's new movie. But honestly, if you try to dive deeper into this, you're just going to ruin the fun and you're going to spoil yourself. And when it comes to Steven Spielberg, you don't want to do that. As for the rumors, this might be a sci-fi-esque movie, and of course UFOs. But the way I'm thinking about this is, if you remember from Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, which came out in 2008, Spielberg made it known that he did not want to work at all on a new Indiana Jones project. He mentioned that in The Last Crusade, how Indiana Jones and his friends were riding off into the sunset with the horses. That was supposed to be like saying, like, "Oh, this is the end of their story. I'm done with the franchise." So when George Lucas came to Spielberg about making a new movie, he was like, "No, I don't want to do this." But George worked his magic. But one of the biggest things that Spielberg mentioned was that he did not want to work with aliens. He didn't want to do anything with any extraterrestrial beings because he already worked on E.T., Close Encounters of the Third Kind, War of the Worlds, and that doesn't count the countless other projects that Steven Spielberg has produced that involve aliens and extraterrestrials. So this Kingdom of the Crystal Skull would be his fourth movie dealing with aliens, and in my personal opinion, I don't think it's going to be about UFOs. This new movie, I just think Steven Spielberg doesn't want to deal with that anymore. And with David Kep, he's just also really dodging all the questions about plot details. Like I said in this previous quote, when who was it? When Deadline was asking him about plot details, he just completely shifted the narrative and started talking about Steven Spielberg's directing style, the way he likes to write movies. So we'll just have to see what this movie is about. We don't have any other information on a trailer or a release date, so it's a lot of waiting. Next up, we have Denis Villeneuve. So if you don't know Denis, he's the Dune director. He did the first Dune and he did the second Dune. He's a self-proclaimed diehard Bond fan, and he's going to be set to direct the next James Bond movie at Amazon MGM Studios. Denis is starting to become a really big household name with the Dune movies. And he also did a really fantastic job with the Blade Runner 2049 movie with Ryan Gosling. If you haven't seen all the memes about the Blade Runner movies, I think you know what I'm talking about, and you'll know who Denis Villeneuve is after looking at all those memes. So this really puts him on pretty much a lot of film lovers like top five directors when it comes to modern filmmaking. So, according to NPR, this is the biggest Bond-related decision at Amazon MGM since they bought the rights to the IP last year. And Villeneuve has expressed his love for gratitude in this opportunity, and it's pretty much his dream job to direct a Bond film at some point in his career. That's pretty much every director's dream movie. It's every person that I talk to who watches movies, they love James Bond, any Bond film. They love 007. They love the games, the books, the movies. I don't think there's a TV show. No, there isn't. But they are working on a TV show at Amazon MGM as well. So a lot of names have been thrown into who's going to fill the role as 007. Two of the biggest ones are Henry Cavill, who you know as Superman, and Aaron Taylor Johnson from the Kick-Ass movies, and most recently 28 Years Later, directed by Danny Boyle. So these are going to be some pretty big shoes to fill in order to do justice to the legacies of, you know, Sean Connery, Pierce Brosnan, and Daniel Craig most recently. So it's not just the actors, but Villeneuve himself is going to have the honor to direct a legacy movie, a legacy of over 60 years with 007. This is his third time actually dealing with the legacy series. He had Blade Runner, of course, Dune. That was a really big hit with audiences and critics, which is really really tough to do. And now he has Bond under his belt when it comes to legacy movies. This is really interesting. And if you haven't seen any other Villeneuve movies, he directed Prisoners with Jake Gyllenhaal. He did Sicario, which was a really good movie. If you haven't watched that, I definitely give that a recommendation. Next up, we have Elio, Pixar's newest movie. Elio has become one of the biggest box office bombs in Pixar's 30-year history when it comes to animation. So, with a budget of $150 million, Elio's opening weekend started with $21 million domestically, and then another $14 million internationally, which with a total came out to about $35 million. This is the worst opening for Pixar, which is really, really, I don't know, it just put me like in a really bad mood. I haven't seen Elio, but let me just ask you this. Can you recall any sort of marketing that you've seen for Elio? Did you see any marketing or commercials about Elio on TV? What about Instagram, TikTok, Facebook? Have you seen any posters, any billboards when you're driving out in the street? Anything? Most people will say no because they didn't get any marketing. Disney did not put any effort when it came to advertising Elio. And if you remember that I mentioned in the previous episode, everybody was starting to get sick and tired of Pixar for some reason because they haven't been coming up with any original stories or new animation. But you have Elio and Elemental recently, and you're just like, what do you mean? Pixar has been doing original movies, and they do sequels now and then, but they mostly focus on original movies. Elio is one of them. Nobody watched it. I didn't even know that it came out last weekend. So it's pretty disappointing to see this stuff. It's just and I'll admit, when I saw one small snippet of Elio. It was like a 5-second clip. That was probably the only thing I got that I knew that Elio existed. But I wasn't really interested or captivated by any of it. But also, I still have the advertising to blame. It's Disney's fault for not putting this movie out there, getting the recognition that it deserves. You have trailers such as Elemental. I didn't watch that one, but when it came to Turning Red, Luca, Soul, which are all original movies by Pixar, I saw all of those and they were amazing. I love Turning Red. Luca was probably my favorite, and Soul. I'm a really big jazz fan, so when they put jazz music into this animated movie, into Soul, it was like a dream come true. I loved every second, every minute, every frame of Soul. But again, these types of movies, they didn't get the recognition that they deserved. One of the biggest gripes with when it comes to audiences is the animation style, which I think at this point is a really lazy just criticism that you can make. Come up with something new, watch the movie, form your own opinion, please. So if you don't know who he is, Real Takes, he's on TikTok. He saw Elio in theaters and he gave this movie 4.5 stars out of 5. He gave it a near perfect rating. He said it's one of Pixar's best works and deemed it a masterpiece, which is really big to say because this guy is really tough when it comes to film criticisms. He's very particular in what he wants and what he likes. So when he saw Elio, he just really loved it. So I really trust this guy when it comes to movie reviews. So I'm definitely gonna have to give it a watch. Now, Pixar did announce that they're looking to release legacy movies such as sequels like Toy Story 5, maybe another Incredibles movie, just so they can try to make some money because obviously their original movies aren't doing so well with the pair marketing, lack of marketing, and just audience reactions and just a shift in what the audience wants for some reason. They want more sequels more than anything, as from what it looks like. In my opinion, like I mentioned before, Disney is just doing a really bad job. Pixar is an animation powerhouse and it's an institution that needs the recognition that it so rightfully deserves when it comes to these movies. I mean, these animation is not cheap. It is extremely difficult to get these. Every single frame has to have love and care. There's no exceptions. Everything has to be perfect. So, and Pixar does everything perfectly. So it's just really bad. So I'm definitely gonna give Elio a watch this weekend and give my honest review soon, because really, I mean, I've only heard good things from people who actually did watch the movie. So I want to show my support with animation, and I think you should too. So a new trailer dropped from Yorgos Lanthimos, his newest movie Begonia, starring Emma Stone and Jesse Plemons. So from the looks of the trailer, the story follows a conspiracy theorist played by Plemons who kidnaps a CEO played by Emma Stone. So the conspiracy theorist believes that the CEO is an alien who's out to destroy Earth, so he kidnaps her. And this is a classic remake of a South Korean sci-fi comedy that goes Save the Green Planet. Now, Yorgos has made a name for himself when it comes to the independent film scene, with his work The Lobster, Poor Things, and Kinds of Kindness. And Poor Things won him a couple of Oscars. So when it comes to The Lobster and Poor Things, I have not watched those yet, but I did watch Kinds of Kindness in theaters. And pretty much what I have to say about Kinds of Kindness, I just wasn't impressed. I was really bored. If you don't know what it's about, I don't either. I don't know what to tell you. It's three stories and they're all played by the same characters. They're like separate stories, and I really don't know how to explain it. I just didn't enjoy it. There was one, I think it was a third story I thought was the best one, but that doesn't really say much for the other two. But I do know that Poor Things received a lot of good reviews. I mean, it won Oscars for it, obviously. I don't think Kinds of Kindness was nominated for anything because it did come out right after Poor Things. This was something that Yorgos was working on as he was directing Poor Things. So maybe that's why maybe the quality was kind of lower in Kinds of Kindness than it was in Poor Things. But Yorgos is definitely becoming a favorite in Hollywood. And you have the chairman of Focus Features, Peter Kujawski. He spoke to Variety last year talking about Yorgos Lanthimos, and it says here he's a cinematic visionary with a singular style that has captivated audiences worldwide. We could not be more excited to partner with him. Emma and the incredible teams at Element, Square Peg, and CJ to reimagine the twisted and darkly funny story. So you already know how I felt about Kinds of Kindness, but Poor Things is considered one of Lanthimos' best works. It received 11 Oscar nominations and it won 4 of them, including Best Actress for Emma Stone. Despite my really disappointing introduction to Yorgos Lanthimos' work, after watching the trailer for Bugonia, I'm actually really excited. It looks like it's going to be a blend of comedy and just a really dark thriller. So we'll just have to see. And I know Emma Stone is producing this as well. I think Jesse Plemons is in the production chair as well. But you can tell that there's just a lot of passion coming from not only the director, but the actors. Now, Bugonia is going to be the 4th collaboration that Emma Stone and Lanthimos are doing. So Bugonia is going to be in theaters this October, so be sure to mark this in your calendar because I know I am. So that's it for the news. So now let's talk about what movies we watched. So first up, we have Temporada de Patos, or Duck Season by Fernando Emke. The film follows an uneventful afternoon between 3 teenagers and a pizza delivery man where they learn about love, loneliness, and the inevitability of growing up in the adult life. Every single scene felt like it wasn't directed, and I mean that in the best way possible. Everything felt so natural. It literally just felt like the teenagers were just being teenagers and they didn't know that there was a camera recording this entire time. And I think that's what makes it so engaging. The conversation just felt so natural. You felt like you were a teenager again, just messing around, being stupid, not having a care in the world. All you had to worry was about girls, passing your classes, what are you going to do for the weekend, what stupid things you're going to do while your parents are gone. There was an interesting choice of shooting in black and white, which was also something that I think gave the film even more charm. I don't know how they do it, but whenever a 21st century movie shoots in black and white, you know it's going to be an immediate banger. And you cannot say otherwise. So for me, Duck Season is going to get 4.5 stars out of 5. This is definitely a classic when it comes to the canon of Mexican cinema. And I recommend this to anyone who's looking to expand their horizons. Definitely give this a watch, you guys. You're going to love it. Next up, we have Mountainhead. Now, this is directed by Jesse Armstrong, who came off of Succession fame. I haven't seen Succession, but I've really only heard good things about it. And I know it's on Max, so I definitely have to give it a watch and see what all the hype is about. But when it comes to Mountainhead, I am just really underwhelmed and disappointed. I really hate to say this because the premise was interesting. It's about four American billionaires who go on a vacation getaway. And while they're on vacation, the United States is going through a crisis right now. There's this whole talk about AI. The billionaires are in tech, so they're the ones who created a bunch of AI algorithms. It's making deep fakes of different news heads, coming up with a bunch of fake news. And it's really difficult to tell the difference between what's real and what's AI generated. So it was really interesting, the premise, but ultimately everything just fell just flat on its stomach. Nothing really stuck with me. The characters weren't interesting at all. There was one character who had something at the beginning that was mentioned, and it felt like it could play into the rest of the movie, but it was never mentioned after that. It was There was no reason to mention it in the first place if you're not going to bring it into the rest of the movie. And it's supposed to be a comedy and a thriller as well, but there was nothing really funny about this movie. There's a huge tonal shift that happens at like the second half of the movie where you're like, oh, this like shifted completely, but you know some comedy is going to be sprinkled on top of it because Steve Carell is in this movie and he's really funny. But when the comedy was supposed to happen, you didn't know when it started and you didn't know when it ended, and you didn't even know it was supposed to be funny at all. There was like no punchline, there was no setup. The line delivery was poor. The physicality when it came to the comedy just didn't settle well on the screen, and I didn't laugh at all. As a matter of fact, I started to sleep. I was fighting to stay awake because this was like a 2 hour and I think 30-minute movie, or maybe just 2 hours. But I tried staying up the entire time, and it was just I was gonna die of boredom. Really, I mean, there was just really nothing. There was no good thing that I can say about this movie. It was just really boring, and it's disappointing because it's Jesse Armstrong. He came off of Succession, so you thought this was going to be like a really big shift for him when it came to directing a full blown movie, but it just everything fell flat. So for me, Mountainhead, it just gets half a star. I really don't have nothing good to say about this movie. It's something you put on the TV when you're trying to sleep. That's the best thing I can say about this movie. So next up, we have Tangerine. This tells the story of a transgender sex worker working through the underbelly of LA trying to find her pimp. It's a really interesting story, and it's directed by Sean Baker, who directed Honora and what's the other movie? The Florida Project. So I loved Honora. It was really good. And when I saw Tangerine, I believe this was Sean Baker's first movie. And one of the most interesting things about this movie is that it was shot on an iPhone 5. The entire thing was shot on iPhone 5, and you can really tell there's like a grit when it came to the quality. I mean, there's like a lot of grain when it comes to darker scenes because the phone just couldn't handle it, I guess. But I think the iPhone brought everything, gave an advantage when it came to making this movie. You see LA as like this really sunny paradise with the coast covered in palm trees and opportunity. But when it came to Cindy's story, the main character of Tangerine, it's a complete opposite. I mean, her life is just survival and love. That's pretty much it. The dialogue, it's fast paced. It feels so natural, just the way I mentioned about a temporada de patos. Uh, it makes you feel like you're right there with the characters, especially Cindy. You feel like you have to catch up with her because if you don't, you're not going to last in LA at all. So this is definitely something that independent and aspiring filmmakers should watch. I know every time like a director, a really famous director, a big shot has like a panel, an interview panel, and someone asks them what's the best piece of advice you can give to an upcoming and aspiring filmmaker, they always say, you have your phone. I mean, look, I have the iPhone 15. I used to be really broke. I mean, I'm still broke, but there was a period where I was making good money. I was stuck with an iPhone 7. It was really cheap, but you're always going to hear a director saying, "You have a smartphone. Every single smartphone has a camera. If it has a camera, you can make a movie." And I know everybody's kind of tired of hearing that. They want to hear like deeper stuff, but honestly, that is Tangerine just proves that that is just the best piece of advice a director can give someone. You have a phone, you have a camera. I don't care how bad the camera is, if it doesn't have the like most megapixels, if the sensor is really small. It doesn't matter. Sean Baker shot this on an iPhone 5. What makes you think you can't shoot this on a brick of a phone? You can use a Nokia phone. I'm pretty sure there's some Nokia phones that have you can get a flip phone. You can make a movie out of that. I know a flip phone has a camera somewhere out there. You don't need to buy the most expensive camera. You don't need a full frame sensor. You don't need to buy the Sony FX3 because they shot a movie. What was it? Gareth Edwards used a Sony FX3 to shoot The Creator. Just use your phone. Sean Baker did it. Why can't you? Are you too good for a phone, dude? Save your money, please. So when it comes to indie filmmaking, this is probably I'm going to jump the gun and say this is probably my favorite independent film that I've seen so far. Tangerine is currently streaming on Max, along with the Florida Project, which I mentioned previously. I love that movie. It's definitely a step up from Tangerine, but when it comes to Tangerine, I'm going to give it 4.5 stars. Sean Baker is really moving up in the world. He won 4 Oscars. He got Best Director, Best Screenwriting, Best Editing, and he also won Best Picture for Anora last year. So I would definitely recommend Tangerine. Get your hands on it if you can. So for the last movie, we have Samurai 2: Duel at Ichijoji Temple. So when it comes to the Samurai trilogy, if you haven't seen it, it follows the story of Takazo, who now goes by Musashi Miyamoto, who's wandering Japan trying to become the best samurai that he can be. So when it comes to the second movie, Duel at Ichijoji Temple, he challenges a very well-known fencer in Kyoto. He challenges this man, but nobody likes what he's doing. Everybody finds it disrespectful. They don't think that Musashi has what it takes to be a great samurai. So they do their best to just gang up on him and destroy his reputation and ultimately kill Musashi. I really enjoyed this movie. I love the first one, the first samurai movie. It was a really good story, a really good origin story for a samurai. It was really cool to watch. And when it came to Duel at Ichijoji Temple, I had really high expectations. I would say the first one is a little better when it comes to this one, Samurai 2. The one gripe I do have with this movie is that it doesn't have that great of fighting choreography. Some of the sword fights just really didn't blend well. I think some of the sword swings just seemed really lazy. But one of the biggest props I have to give to this movie is the cinematography. There is, and the opening scene starts off with the fight, and there's one specific shot. I don't want to spoil it for you, but it's a low angle shot, and it looks like a screensaver. It looks like a painting. This movie was made in the 50s, and if you know about the backdrops, they would use paintings to make backdrops of clouds, forests, planets. Star Wars used a lot of that technique in the original trilogy, and it was really beautiful to look at. Like I said, you could use it as a screensaver. It was just really good to look at. And they're really long shots too, so you can really take everything in. So in my opinion, it is a little bit wonky when it comes to the story as well, but it does have a blend of romance, action, and drama. So even though I think the first one is better than this one, I would still recommend it if you are a fan of the Samurai trilogy. And for me, Duel at Ichijoji Temple gets 3.5 stars. So that's the end of the movie reviews. Now let's move on to our Letterboxd favorites. So for our Letterboxd favorites, we have user Ian Skywalker. He's a nurse, a Jedi, Hufflepuff, and he always has his subtitles on. And according to his bio, Charlie XCX brought him here. So it's good for you, Ian. I'm glad you're on here. So for his top 4, he has 28 Weeks Later. Now, I haven't watched 28 Weeks Later. I really need to. It's on Hulu actually right now. So I definitely need to give that a watch. And of course, I have to watch the first one as well, 28 Days Later, so I can watch 28 Years Later in theaters. But I've only heard good things about 28 Weeks. I heard it's probably the weakest one. Everybody says the first one is better. Everybody says the first one of any franchise is the best. So I'll probably have to take their word on that. Next on his list, he has Prometheus from 2012, the Alien prequel. I really enjoyed this movie. It is a little controversial when it comes to the Alien fan base. I think it's perfect. I love how Ridley Scott kind of started using Greek mythology to tell these stories, especially since this is a prequel. There's a lot of religious allegories. Some of the characters were boring, and two specific scientists, they're scientists, you guys. Two specific scientists were really stupid. If you remember, they were messing around with this like snake alien thing that I don't want to spoil too much, but it's not really a heavy spoiler. There's some plot points in this movie where you're just like, Ridley Scott wrote this? I don't believe it. But I still love Prometheus, even for its faults. And I think it's a great addition to the prequel movies that Ridley Scott's working on. Next up on Ian Skywalker's list, he has Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. Now, I'm still on a quest to finish the Harry Potter movies. I think the last one I was left on was the Half-Blood Prince. But I remember Goblet of Fire, and one specific memory I have of this movie, I saw this in Mexico, in Rio Bravo, in Cine Azteca 5. I was at the very front row in the theater. The scene where they have to, I forgot what it is they have to retrieve from the lake, but there's like deadly mermaids that want to kill you in there. That scene terrified me as a kid, and it didn't help that I was at the very front as well. It was like their teeth. I sort of have thalassophobia, so that just didn't help at all. But for me, I think my favorite Harry Potter movie by far is The Prisoner of Azkaban. I think that's the best one out of all of the movies. I think it was great. But Goblet of Fire, I think I would have to put it on probably my top 3 on the Harry Potter movies. And last but not least, if you remember, I was talking about Denis Villeneuve. Ian has Blade Runner 2049 with Ryan Gosling and Harrison Ford. This movie, if you haven't seen the first Blade Runner, I recommend you watch the final cut. There's about like 3 cuts of Blade Runner, and everybody's confused on which one to watch. Everybody's going to tell you, watch the final cut. As soon as you watch the final cut, go watch Blade Runner 2049. It's so good. It keeps the grit and the, neo-noir style that the very first movie had. It expands on the lore. It brings back legacy characters such as Harrison Ford. And there's one more that I do not want to spoil because you need to watch the first one, like I just said. But Blade Runner was an amazing, amazing addition. And I really wish I saw this in theaters. But I'm just glad I got to watch it either way. There's also there's 2 emotional scenes that really got to me. Both of them are actually towards the end. So if you ever watch it, definitely let me know what you think. I definitely want to see your reviews on Letterboxd. So out of all of these movies, I think Ian Skywalker has a really great lineup. So for Ian's top 4 Letterboxd, I'm going to give him a 3.5 out of 5 stars. This is an amazing list. I think it tells me a lot about him. He definitely likes sci-fi movies with a blend of horror because he has 28 Weeks Later and Prometheus, and a little bit of fantasy splurged on there with the Harry Potter movies. This is definitely a great list. So thanks a lot, Ian Skywalker, for your submission. So that's everything for Cinema Buzz, you guys. Remember, go watch a movie and remember remember that your funny one-liner reviews on Letterboxd matter. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next one.